Meanwhile, the exchanges of fire between Israel and Iran continue unabated. It is known that the IDF struck a number of military and nuclear facilities last night. In response, Iranian missiles targeted the southern city of Beersheba. There are at least 6 people injured there and many destroyed houses. Dozens of Israelis were injured during the Iranian attacks in the north of the country. Among the victims, there is, in particular, a 51-year-old woman who died of a heart attack in a shelter. A chance for a diplomatic solution in the war between Iran and Israel. Talks have begun in Geneva between European countries and Iran regarding the nuclear program. The main diplomats from the United Kingdom, Germany, France, and of course Iran are taking part in these talks. Expectations for a breakthrough at these negotiations are low. However, the Europeans will try to return to the path of diplomatic discussion regarding Iran's nuclear program. Sources in diplomatic circles reported before the start of the talks that the European ministers might inform the Iranians about the United States' readiness for direct negotiations. Meanwhile, sources from the Iranian delegation cited by Reuters say that Iran is ready to discuss limits on uranium enrichment, of course, but any proposal that would completely prohibit uranium enrichment will be rejected by Iran. It is precisely the fact that Tehran is on the verge of being able to create nuclear weapons that served as the pretext under which Israel attacked the Iranians last Friday. And now, the latest ultimatum from Trump. The American president has given Iran another 2 weeks to resolve the issue of its nuclear program through negotiations. This was stated at a briefing by White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt. Publicly, Donald Trump has left open the question of potential U.S. involvement in Israel's strikes on Iranian targets. The American press reported that Trump considered destroying the underground uranium enrichment facility at Fordo, and that only the United States possesses the necessary weaponry for this. Reuters, citing 3 diplomatic sources, writes that unofficially Tehran and Washington have already held talks following the Israeli strikes. This week, Trump even left the G7 summit early without meeting with the president of Ukraine because, as was claimed, he was in a hurry to resolve the conflict between Israel and Iran. But as we can see, he is also in no rush to intervene in the war on Israel's side. What is Trump's strategy and goal regarding the Middle East, and how might this affect Ukraine? We will discuss this with TSN's own correspondent in the United States, Olga Koshelenko. She's already live with us from Washington. Olga, so at the beginning of the week, Trump said that in literally a day or two, he would decide whether the United States would also bomb Iran or not. Now, he is already saying that the decision will be made in about a week or two. Where has this decisiveness of Trump gone? Because when he called for everyone to immediately evacuate from Tehran, it seemed like the decision had already been made, that it was about to happen any moment.
Yes, greetings, colleague. A change in rhetoric from belligerent indeed. At the beginning of the week, Trump stated that there could be no ceasefire between Israel and Iran, that only a complete renunciation by Tehran of its intentions to develop nuclear weapons and, in general, any nuclear research would be acceptable, that there could be no negotiations either, that it was already too late. Trump even publicly contradicted the words of French President Macron, because Macron had said that Trump was considering the possibility of a peaceful settlement, to which Trump responded that Macron was misunderstanding everything. But in recent days, we have indeed observed that his determination, well, in his words, has become much less pronounced. Now, we really are hearing about 2 weeks, and that supposedly they will now be decisive. The American press writes about the extraordinary resistance from the MAGA, the radical wing of the Republican Party, on which Donald Trump relies. And in fact, this is the wing that he created. This is his asset. The magician does not want war. Let me remind you that in his inaugural speech, Donald Trump also said that the success of the United States would be measured by the wars they do not enter. This internal conflict is spilling out into the open. Trump even insulted the mega popular mega blogger Tucker Carlson on the social network Truth Social. He literally wrote, "Someone tell the crazy Carlson that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons." Trump's trust was also allegedly undermined by the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, a staunch supporter of Trump. But she's also against U.S. involvement in foreign military operations, NBC News reports, citing its sources. And now, allegedly, because of this, she is no longer being invited to meetings. And Donald Trump himself is now speaking very critically about Tulsi Gabbard and her testimony in Congress. When he was asked about her statements in Congress, where she said that Iran has not yet come close to completing its nuclear program, Trump replied that he doesn't care what she thinks. And the Wall Street Journal, citing its sources, wrote that Trump has already chosen one of the scenarios for how events might unfold from those that were presented to him, but that he hasn't activated it yet. To this, Trump himself responded that the Wall Street Journal has no idea how he is going to act. And his spokesperson the day before read out a statement from the president and also spoke in very vague and very non-specific terms about possible developments. Please, let's listen to the direct quote.
It is a fact that there is a substantial chance.
He said in the statement I just read to you that based on the fact that there is a substantial chance of negotiations with Iran, which may or may not take place in the near future, he will make a decision within the next 2 weeks. What makes him think that significant changes are possible? The president will strike. The president is saying, I am not going to get into speculation or reasoning. That is what the president believes. It is his position, and he will make a decision within the next 2 weeks. Well, we've already heard something similar about the next 2 weeks being decisive regarding Russia's war against Ukraine, and we've heard it more than once. Trump is now completely ignoring this topic. I mean, the topic of our war. He did not take part in the G7 meeting this week in Canada, specifically on the day that was supposed to be and was dedicated to the issue of Ukraine. And as he was leaving Kananaskis on his plane, he actually said that he had accomplished everything he wanted at the summit in Canada and had no further business there. Trump did not respond to these intense Russian strikes on residential neighborhoods that took place this week. He mentioned Putin only in one context as a great friend of Iran. The Russian dictator offered his mediation services in resolving the war with Israel. But according to Trump, he supposedly advised Putin to deal with his own war first and only then take on anything else. That's all for now regarding the Ukrainian track. But next week, we are expecting an extremely important event. A NATO summit will take place in The Hague, where both President Trump and President Zelensky are expected to attend. The president of Ukraine has openly stated that he wants to talk to Donald Trump about acquiring new arms packages. So we will be watching closely to see whether their meeting takes place in the Netherlands and whether Trump is willing to hold it. Colleague.
Thank you. Thank you for the details. TSN correspondent in the United States, Olga Koshelenko, on how the White House is hesitating over whether to join the war against Iran, which Israel is already fighting, and on how the war in Ukraine has almost disappeared from Donald Trump's rhetoric this week. And also, Ukrainians killed in Israel, a family that not only saved children from shelling in Ukraine, but also fought for one of them, 7-year-old Nastya, to have a chance at life due to oncology. TSN spoke exclusively with a woman from Odessa who, as a result of the Iranian attack on Israel, lost 2 children, her mother, her sister, and her niece. A lot has been written about this family online, but as our interviewee says, there was a lot of inaccurate information, and it is very important for her to set the record straight. TSN correspondent Irina Kondratyuk will tell us more.
The night of June 15th, Iran strikes Israeli cities with a new type of ballistic missile. The warheads overcome the American TED defense system, as well as the Patriot system used by Israel. As a result of the attack, it becomes clear that this time the Iron Dome air defense did not protect them. One of the missiles hit an apartment building in the city of Bat Yam. This is a suburb of Tel Aviv. 12 people were killed. Among them were 5 Ukrainians.
There are simply no bodies. As I was told, they didn't have time to get downstairs. They were found under the stairs. Someone was thrown out.
That night, Hannah lost both of her sons, Ilya and Kostya, who will forever remain 14 and 10 years old, respectively. Her mother, Olena, who was 54, her sister, Maria, who was 30, and Maria's daughter, Nastya. Hannah's niece was 7 years old.
I still haven't fully accepted it. I sit at home and think, well, they are just far away. Yes, I lived a year without them, I miss them terribly, and I only realize it when I understand that I can no longer call them.
Hannah's sons moved to Israel last spring. The family believed it would be safer for the children that way. After all, in their native Odessa, the younger boy Kostya would constantly cry because of the air raid sirens and was terrified of the rockets.
They were supposed to come back in a year or two. They were already studying there. I insisted that they also attend Ukrainian school online here.
Anna's mother, her biological sister, and her niece had already been living there for over a year. At the end of 2022, they came to Israel for medical treatment. Little Nastya had a severe form of cancer. A few years before that, the family had suffered another loss. Maria's sister passed away from the same diagnosis, leukemia. They were twins. Here are their childhood photos. Little Nastya was named in her honor.
She said, if Nastya is gone, I simply won't go on living, recalls Maria's best friend and Nastya's godmother. She says that after months of endless fundraising for treatment, there were 3 extremely difficult surgeries. The little one received a bone marrow transplant, but even that didn't help.
They were just about to go to the hospital on Sunday, where Masha was supposed to be told the results of the biopsy and the possible treatment plan going forward. 5 Ukrainians, including 3 children. The farewell for this family will take place in Israel on Sunday and Monday.
I have already signed a notarized document for the cremation of the bodies because it is impossible to transport them.
It was impossible to transport the bodies to Ukraine due to the closed airspace and the unstable situation. So, for now, it is unknown when the ashes of the deceased Ukrainians will be sent to Odessa so that their relatives can also say their goodbyes. Currently, Nastya's father, Artem, is fighting at the front in memory of his daughter. Irina Kondrachuk, Olena Chernyaeva, Ivan Savchenko, and Anatoly Korop. TSN 1+1 Marathon United News.